Do political yard signs work? The answer is yes. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you how to make them work to your benefit, how you use them to win an election. Stay with me, because some of this stuff you're going to learn is pure gold. We're going to cover 1, the secrets of effective yard signs, and number 2, the price you pay if you don't do them, and then number 3, how to find strategic locations to put them. Stick with me, because all of this is going to be very useful to you. I'm going to start this with a story about a campaign meeting I was in once, where on the table was a discussion of a candidate's yard signs. And there were 5 or 6 of us there, and I called on somebody to start the discussion, and she says, I have the perfect solution. Our candidate's very conscious, so I think we ought to go cheap. Just 2 colors, just her name, just the office she's running for, and we're going to make it really small, 1.5 by 2 feet. That's the smallest we can get. And the next person says, well, wait a minute. That's pretty plain, and it's going to look like everybody else's cheap stuff. Why do we have to do it that way? Why don't we go 4-color? Because we got this beautiful logo that people love, and if we go 4-color, we can put our logo and her name and the office she's running for, and then help reinforce our brand. And then the third person says, well, wait a minute, if we're going to go 4-color, and we're going to have all that, why don't we put her picture on it? Because very few candidates actually put their picture on it. But if we put her picture on it, they've seen in our other advertising, do a better job of associating her picture with her name, because it's easier to remember a picture than it is words on a piece of paper. Somebody says, well, that's a great idea. And then a fourth one says, well, wait a minute. It's not just the logo that's working for us. It's our campaign message, our slogan. Safer streets, cleaner parks, more playgrounds. Do you realize that our candidate has gained a lot of traction with that slogan? Is there some way to get that on the poster? So here was the final decision. We bought a slightly larger posters, 2 by 2. We went 4-color. It had her logo, her name, the office she's running for, her picture, and 3 lines underneath the logo that reminded voters of what she was fighting for. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a great campaign poster. And if you do it that way, it will pay dividends, because I pretty much guarantee you very few people in your community are going to do a yard sign that well. Number 2, I mentioned this, I tell you, there's a price you pay if you don't do yard signs. Now, here's the thing, if you've run a good campaign, you've had volunteers come in the door, make an effort to help you, giving up their time to try and advance your cause. Probably have a few people who've donated to you or asked how they could donate. They've made an investment in your cause. Hopefully you have a few influential people in your community that are willing to say nice things about you, maybe even that publicly endorsed you. They stuck their neck out for you. The volunteers gave their time. People gave you money. And if at election time they see everybody else's yard signs but not yours, you know what they're going to think? That you took advantage of them, that you're not really trying, that you're not really making the same effort. And that may or may not be true, but that's the impression you're going to leave if you're invisible while other candidates are present. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So do yourself a favor. If you want to maintain your momentum in a campaign, don't fall for the idea that you can get away without doing any yard signs. Social media is not a substitute for this. Keep your voters, your volunteers, and your voters enthused about you. Be present in the yard sign war game. Question always rises, because yard signs are not necessarily the cheapest thing you'll ever spend money on. Where do you order them? Well, there are 3 places to go look. In your community, there are people who have run for office before. You've probably met some of them. If you haven't, you should. Now, one of the questions you can ask those who've run before is where they got their yard signs, because they may know of this great vendor who can do them on the cheap. Second place to look is go to your computer, open up Google, and say, where to buy yard signs in my whatever the name of your city is. I did that recently for a candidate in Georgia. While we were on a Zoom call, bang, up popped 9 different places, all within a 5-mile radius, that sell yard signs in his local community. There's a third place to look. Go to Google again. Say, I need to order political yard signs. And you're going to find page after page after page of companies that make yard signs for candidates all over the country. You just place your order, you send them the artwork, tell them what you want, the size, and they'll print them and ship them to you. Now, do check their references. Do look at their reviews. Do compare prices, because those prices can vary. But those are 3 ways to figure out where to get your yard signs done. All right, I promised you we'd talk about strategic locations, and here we go. The most effective place to put a yard sign is in someone's yard. Second place is look for street corners where you've got 2 stop signs or 4 stop signs, and a busy street corner where people approaching that have nothing better to do while they're waiting on traffic to move than to glance at the yard signs there on the corner. Third place, do not ignore busy intersections. These are places where traffic lights control the flow of traffic, where traffic tends to get backed up during the busy hours in the city. People have nothing better to do while they're sitting there waiting on the light to change except glance at the yard signs that may be on the street corners of this busy intersection. It's guaranteed you'll be placed there, where people have nothing to do except look at the yard signs there at the intersection. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper dive here in the door-to-door piece of this. How do you get homeowners to put your yard signs in their yards? Well, here's what not to do. Don't go put your yard sign in somebody's yard without permission. More than likely, they'll really get pissed and they'll rip it up. What you want to do as you go door to door is ask permission with people you talk to who seem friendly to you. So if you'd have a good conversation with Mabel in a certain neighborhood and she says, yes, I'm going to vote for you, before you leave, you say, Mabel, can we come back in a couple of weeks and put a yard sign in your yard? And Mabel says, of course. You don't have to ask Mabel's permission again. Just do it when you're ready to do it. This is one of the strategies we have employed in a political campaign in a suburban area, and it really does shake up our opponents when we do it. We will accumulate a list of people in that community who have agreed to have a yard sign in their yard. And we'll get a group of kids together on a Saturday and a Sunday. We'll pair 2 in a pickup truck loaded with yard signs. We'll give them a map of everywhere they need to go. We know that 2 kids in a pickup truck can get 50 yard signs done in a day. And we will have them go to the yards of people who've agreed to put those yard signs up. Well, guess what? Within a day or 2, the opponent's driving around town, and you know what? They get upset because suddenly, overnight, it looks like the entire community is supporting their opponent. It does get underneath their skin when they see that. It makes them nervous, and nervous candidates sometimes do silly, stupid things. It may throw them off. That's one method. There's a secondary consideration here, and we're talking about strategic locations. There was once a campaign in which I was involved, someone challenging an incumbent state senator in a 2-county district. Well, one of those counties was his home. It's where he was very well known and very well liked. The other county was the home of his opponent, and she was well known and she was well liked. But her one deficiency is that she was kind of taking her campaign for granted. So this is what he did with his yard sign strategy. In the county where she lived, you couldn't find a single yard sign for him. He didn't even want people there to know there was an election. But in the county where he was from, You couldn't drive a quarter of a mile down the road without seeing his yard signs. He flooded the zone because he knew in his home county that everybody who voted, 90% of them were going to vote for him. He caught her off guard because she didn't do a lot of advertising. A lot of people in her county didn't know about the election, and he beat an incumbent state senator through the strategic use of yard signs. That is one example of how you use them strategically. He demographically, by geographic area, targeted his most likely voters. There's a second trick we've used a few times, and it was a fun story. Two-candidate race. We got wind that our opponent was going to do a 8 o'clock hit on a local Fox News station. It was about 6 weeks before the election. We also knew that she was easily rattled and quick to anger, so we took advantage of that. At 10 o'clock the night before, we sent some kids out to the road where she lived, where we knew the intersection she'd have to turn to get to the interstate highway that would take her to the Fox News station. And we lined her road and that 2-mile stretch of highway to the interstate with yard signs for our candidate. She was so rattled by the time she got to that Fox interview, so thrown off course, that she practically babbled her way through it because she couldn't think straight, because she was so upset about seeing her opponent's yard signs in her neighborhood. One other thing I'm going to mention here, there are those who say yard signs are poo-poo, waste of money. I don't agree with the younger voters who say they're useless. Social media is not a substitute, and here's why. You can do all the social media you want to. You may be reaching a lot of people, and my God, it is very effective. However, you're never going to reach everybody on social media. Some don't look at it, some see it and ignore it. Here's the truth. You know, no matter where we live, at some point during the course of a week, we get in a car and we drive somewhere, or we go to the grocery store, or to the dry cleaners, or to the drugstore. If they see yard signs there, it's social proof that you're running a real campaign. And if they haven't seen any of your social media, it might be the very thing that tips a vote in your favor. So don't ignore yard signs. You can call them a necessary evil, and they are in one sense. Yes, they cost money, but don't neglect to put them in your budget. I mentioned social media. I have a video I'm going to suggest you watch, how social media is used to influence politics. While this is fresh in your mind, I'm going to suggest you go watch that video. So not only are you now an expert on yard signs, go there and you'll become an expert on social media. The link is in the description below.